How do you sell a space to someone who has never walked through the door? That insight is at the core of what Zihao Zhang and his team have been building from 10 hackathons to the first real paying clients. So what is Orbitur?
Orbitur is an AI-powered virtual tour platform for spaces worth showing. The important part is like spaces worth showing.
We look at how they have integrated AI capabilities into their platform.
It can do the indoor and outdoor navigation. You need to guide people to go to room A, room B, room C, and give the navigation, and navigation that is based on the real life.
How a Zoom call can be turned into a full tour experience.
We can just schedule, for example, a Zoom call, can open the camera to see each other's face, to build that trust, but also just like avatar to showcase like where is the specific position of each other.
We also discuss the emerging business model and the associated challenges.
Data is gold, depends on who's gonna buy that gold.
And how all this was built by a dedicated team with a deep passion for hacking.
I love hackathons. I feel like, in my opinion, hackathon is the future format of university. Will I join more hackathons? Yes. But my purpose of joining hackathons are different right now.
But before we get into it, I wanted to remind you that if you don't have the time to watch the full interview and want to learn from other founders and creatives at the intersection between XR and AI, you should definitely check out the XR AI Spotlight newsletter. By subscribing, you will get weekly interviews like this directly in your inbox and access to a list of tools and apps that allow you to experience Gaussian Splatting in VR, on Quest, and Vision Pro. Just check the first link in the show description. And now it's time to roll the title and welcome Zihao under the spotlight. Zihao, it is a real pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for your invitation. Very happy to come here. Yeah.
So, Zihao, I feel that we are at a stage where everybody is looking for tangible, viable, grounded application for Gaussian splatting. And I was wondering, what is your take right now? Where would you put your money?
Yeah, sure. That's a very important question, and I'm glad you asked this at the very beginning. Yeah. So I would say, again, Gaussian splatting is a technology, right? It's a part of reality capture. Before that, it was nerve, and before that, laser scanning, photogrammetry. The idea and the concept of reality capture is always there for a long time. And of course, many people are using that for virtual tour, for reality capture purposes, for simulation. But for me, like, because I had an architecture background, and I was also like working in the UNESCO before, and like this kind of experiences before leads me to think about what's the purpose of doing this reality capture. Because again, it's not a cheap technology to be honest. No matter it's like 3D GS or 4D GS, for the space or for the people, it's not cheap at all. So only for
why you would say it's not cheap? Like, what part of it is expensive?
Yeah, of course we can use the phone to do that, but like we have been trying different pipelines and realized that for the commercial ready stuff, phone is not ready so far, at least. So that's why we partner with the XGrids and also like purchase the PortalCam. Like we need to have the best device so far in order to provide a commercial ready quality splats for the customer and for the clients. Again, so for that part, it's not cheap at all.
Also, it's fair. Just to understand, right? Because there is a whole span of ways in which you can capture this, from a mobile app that charges you $20 a month. You can go unlimited Gaussian splatting reconstruction on the cloud. That would sound pretty cheap. But again, it depends on the final application. If you're talking about real estate, bigger areas, and so on, then of course the sky is the limit as well.
Yeah, sure. So again, come back to the question, like where we put our money in right now is mainly about like the hardware and also the, because like we're trying to create a application to host this data, and specifically for the niche industry and their needs, and for the infrastructure part. Yeah.
So it is, because also when we talk about real estate or architecture, right, there are different layers to it. There is the construction, there is real estate like selling, for example, the certain property. There is also like tours. It could be, for example, even a museum, right? That also is, in a way. Would you group all those into the same bucket, or do you see like a distinctions between those?
That's a great question. And I think that leads to, like how we begin as like Grand Tour XR like prototype phase to like Orbitor. Because again, like Grand Tour, like it's come from like, the Renaissance period of time. Like, it's for education for those like privileged kids and to learn about like the ancient history of the Greece, of the Italy, etc. And also that was my passion because in my undergrad I was traveling a lot and I realized that I was privileged as well, and I want to just try to make those amazing places more accessible to general public. So that's why I got into the reality capture field. And so for at the beginning, we were mainly focusing on the cultural tourism. So that's why museum was part of that. And but like when we try to reach out to the real clients, and specifically, after XRCC hackathon, because that track, immersive travel and destinations, was sponsored by German National Tourism Board. And we got first place. So we got talked to them and, just to try to see how to move forward and collaborate together. And the thing we realized is that they move slow. So like it's hard to regard as a real business or purely rely on that. Like once we get that, we work together, that's amazing, that's perfect. But again, we need to have expectation that it should be not very quick. So we're thinking, okay, how to, like really make this as a business and move forward seriously. So we're thinking, okay, so fundamentally speaking, a tour specifically in the cultural tourism, in the museum setting, etc., is like a real person, a tour guide, introduce the space to their audience, right? It's basically a person in a space talk to their clients, talk to their customer about the space. So we're thinking, actually, in a real estate, it's basically the same. Like the financial model is basically the same. So that's why we say, okay, how about just, like also move this mode into the field of real estate and try to, have like a two parallel line going forward and try to feed each other, like the revenue and also the impact all together. Yeah.
So I feel that there are two tracks for this conversation. One is for sure, how do you went from, let's say, a hackathon project into something that you kept building with your team over time, over, as I understood, also several hackathons up to where you are now releasing. And the other, there is like the product itself, right? Because those I feel like, in a way, two adjacent but different topics. So I would like to start understanding a little bit more of Orbitur. So can you maybe explain us what Orbitur can do and what are some of the technical challenges that you had to overcome?
Yeah, sure. So Orbitur, in one sentence, Orbitur is an AI-powered virtual tour platform for spaces worth showing. So the important part is like spaces worth showing. It's not like every single spaces.
Who decide? Because also like I might have a different impression of what is worth showing.
Exactly. So that's something that I'm gonna cover because I'm pretty sure you also know a lot about technology like Gaussian Splatting. Like we were also trying to, for example, capture some like apartment and like with white wall, and the result was actually terrible because there's not many details there. But if we capture like, for example, like some amazing places with a lot of details like wallpaper, like a lot of decoration, etc., and that was amazing. So for technology itself, like in general, like the space with more details, like actually behaves better with this technology. So that's also the reason why, so far in a real estate, we prioritize the commercial real estate, specifically the venue rental market. Like for event space, for example, like if we need to hold events, the first thing is we need to book a venue, like event place to do that. And that related with a lot of, people's experiences. Some brands feel like, okay, the space need to have a feeling of their brand culture, etc. And that is more important than the residential real estate, because sometimes for the residential, we only need a comfortable place. It doesn't need to have like that fancy, etc. So that's why, we right now mainly focusing on the venue rental market in the commercial real estate, but also for museum, we focus more about a temporary exhibition because they're gonna go. It's also like an event, So that's something that we have real clients that in New York City that we are working with them, and they basically pay for the archive, the spatial archive and the spatial documentation of their temporary exhibition. Yeah.
And so how does this, when you mention like AI powered, how does it work? So you can create any splat, put it there. Is that built on top of Super Splat? Is because there are challenges in having splats on the web, right? And that is one of the challenges. Of course, there are also challenges in doing some sort of customization of the space, right? Maybe if you need to make some changes at some hotspot, or maybe even create a tour of it. That is another, let's say, technical challenge that you might want to tackle. So what does Orbitur actually provide to someone that would like to arrange something like this?
Yeah, sure. So first thing first, of course, is like the Gaussian Splats to capture the real space. That's the fundamental layer as a background. And the second is like we do have a spatial awareness AI guide inside of that space. For example, like after our user interview with our customer and client in commercial real estate. For example, they're like our first client in the real estate is like a Civic Hall, which is the location that we have our official launch during the tech week. And they basically mentioned that they don't have enough time simply because they always need to answer all of those repetitive questions from their clients about how large the space is, how large this classroom is, how many people can sit, how many people can stand, like for different layout, etc. And also location-wise, like the price, like all of those repetitive questions. And the people we're talking to, they love the hospitality, but they cannot do that with everybody asking the same question. And so we're just trying to use that, like AI guide, like AI spatial awareness guide to answer all of those questions and try to filter certain point of, a certain kind of customer, and then let them to either schedule a in-person or virtual time with the real people.
So, and that's interesting. Then this AI guide has awareness of the space. I can imagine you can feed information, history, layouts, or capacity. Those are, let's say, written information. But is it also aware of areas? Like, does it tells you, oh, and by the way, this is the best view that we have on this side of the building, and moves you there? Has some sort of like spatial role 3D within that, or is just someone that talks to you and regurgitate information from a spreadsheet or a PDF?
That's a great question. It can do the indoor and outdoor navigation. You need to guide people to go to room A, room B, room C, and give the navigation, and navigation that is based on the real life. For example, you walk in this street, you walk in this corridor, and like it did exactly the same. Yeah.
And so instead, when it comes to, let's say, arranging, what else can be done? So are there opportunity, for example, to change, add, or assemble spaces? Like what else can be done within the platform? And also, is it like a multiplayer feature? How's that work?
Yes. So from the user journey point of view, the first thing is it's like WebXR, right? It's like web page, and they can just embed this as a window into their website or something. So basically the same function as the picture and the video, to be honest. It's just like spatial documentation, and they can just just like AI get embedded inside. So that's the first layer, first step. So before even, for example, I need to like book a place in Netherlands for a coming event, and you are the event owner, like the venue owner, and you have like a website to introduce the venue because you need to make money from that, right? And before even reaching out to you, like contact with you, I look at your website, I just go through the whole environment and space. If I like it, I'm gonna schedule time with you, right? If not, let's just save each other time. Don't need to waste that time. When I feel like I'm interested, the next step is, okay, either I'm in Netherlands in person, or I'm like remote. For example, we can just schedule, for example, Zoom call. But in that Zoom call, we have like live guided, like the tour function that basically combine the Zoom function. You can open the camera to see each other's face to build that trust, but also just like avatar to showcase like where is the specific position of each other, and also use the, the pointer to point, okay, this is the AV, and that is the window, and this is like the electricity, etc., to point out some like details. So either we just book a time virtually, and I can pay for that, or I'm in the Netherlands, let's just schedule a in-person visit. So in that case, like it can save a lot of time and also the repetitive work that always people need to go on site and move back, etc. Schedule time is very difficult, like especially in person. So that's the value proposition part of that.
So then with value proposition, I think what it comes as well is a business model, right? So I'm curious, like, how does that work for maybe for Orbitur, but in general? So what's your take on the business model around Gaussian splatting? Because I think that in some way it's still like a tech that is in search of a problem to solve, right? There are a lot of these studio, and sometimes it's agency, sometimes it's studio, sometimes it's an enthusiast that is capable of creating this splat. But then it's okay, we got it and looks amazing and we can put it on a web. That's all great. But then what do we do with it, and how is the exchange of value, right, in this? And what is your take on this business model, and what are the opportunities around it?
Yeah, to be honest, that's a hard question, and also something that I want to discuss with you and learn from you today. Not just because we're not successful yet, we're still like doing our best as a newly like graduates. But so for business model, it means like how to make it a sustainable thing to solve people's problem, right? And again, I'm come from architecture background, so I know like architecture and the space field, which is like human-centered problem, like the venue owner, museum owner, curator, like this kind of people. I know them pretty well. So that's the initial point where I get started. But later, specifically during the MI Tech Week, I was also got invited into a physical AI event as a panelist. And also I went to San Francisco. We joined the World Model Hackathon and also talked to a lot of people in the robotics and realized that data is gold. And we have data. So we have gold. Depends on who's going to buy that gold. And people in the robotics, they're going to buy that gold because they need to have data to simulate, like the real to sim, like those type of thing. But the thing is, I'm not expert in that field. We have data, and our goal is to just try to solve, like more people's problem, like in the real estate, in the audience engagement industry, in order to let them to pay for the money. At the same time, get the data. When we get this data, how to also make more benefits from this data, from for example, sell this data to the physical AI in order to lower the price of the people in the real estate and also audience engagement.
Oof, that's playing two games at the same time. Like, I mean, when I was thinking about business model, right, I was thinking like, let's say at the Orbitur case, right, there are different elements to it. There is like, we provide the platform, and then you can upload your 3D and do all these tours and whatever. That is one way of selling this. In a way, let's say all studios that can create 3D then can upload it, create this tour, create this AI guide. That sounds to be very unique. I haven't seen other, let's say, providing something like this. So I imagine that there is unique value, something unique that you have built that maybe other platforms don't have. And then at that point, you take hands off, and that's kind of like the dream, right? So if there are a lot of these studios that can kind of like purchase and host and use your platform to host these tours, that's great. Now, the fact is that reality, usually this starts as we are here and we'll do the splat, we'll do the hosting, we'll do everything, and we sell you this as a project. Right. And so you sell these first to one museum, then to a commercial real estate, and then basically you test the water. So the whole data layer, that's, I think, a problem that can be tackled only if you can properly manage scale. Because I'm not sure you are a team, but how many places can you go there and scan? It's like asking someone to go around with a camera. So do you see that as a long-term strategy, or as part of this, something you're actively exploring, or is still like in the maybe one day? Look, I want to understand like this selling the data. Do you think that this is realistic for someone that is building a platform or a tool like yours to end up selling this data for robotics company?
I think so. At least from the feedback from those people like in the industry. Because like after my research and also like the discussion with people in the robotics industry, specifically to simulation, right now they mainly have two ways. The first thing, the first way is they basically build up the real physical, settings to let robotics simulate inside of that. That's the best option. But the thing is, it's hard to change and also extremely expensive. And the other way is they use the basically world model to generate a lot of tons of places to do that. But the thing is, like if only rely on that, that's gonna lead to the hallucination. So I think like the position that our data is exactly in the middle. Like it's higher quality than the world model, but it's much cheaper and more frequent than build out the real thing. So come back to our question of how much data we can have, right? That's a very important question. And I think that's basically the only mode, in my opinion, for every single company in the application layer of the Gaussian splatting and potential, WebXR industry, is that how much data you can get. First, I think, of course, the more is better, but still, it can never be as much as world model, like just to generate like endless splats, right? So in that case, like the natural and the natural and the ground truth data is still like very important to provide those like edging data opportunities.
100%, of course.
Yeah.
The case of scale, because whenever I think about people that are doing this more at scale, I'm thinking about the Niantic or this one have, let's say, this infrastructure they have been building over the years where these maps have been added, right? Now, there is still a point where it says like, okay, how many commercial real estate space do they have? Because that is another question. So I think that there is then huge value if you could get, let's say, exclusive, let's say, of spaces that are commercially valuable, right? Because the map of what Google does is that's the streets, but it doesn't do the airport. It doesn't do the station. It doesn't do, and that becomes like, okay, we have this kind of like very niche data. The problem is how to build a system that has some sort of scale that allows you to capture those data. Because as I understand right now, you are still doing the capture, correct?
Yeah.
And so that is a bit the point. But then it's like, okay, if this happens at scale and more studios or more companies are uploading or creating this data, and we, thanks to some, let's say, clauses or whatever, could use those because we lower the price for it to host it, then you could potentially get more volume. But yeah, volume, it's a tricky part, and finding also the right type of space.
Yeah. So it's like a question, or is it more like a
No, it is a thought. It is a thought on building like a business model that also rely on this on let's say selling this data, right? And using them and having this opportunity to keep this door open, because again, whenever people also know that you can sell their data, they expect everything for free. Because that's the other reality of things, right? It's like, oh yeah, I give you this data, but then I want the service for free because you're gonna sell off my data. The point is that right now there aren't that many company again buying those data at scales, right? So it still remains like a point where this 3DGS and is still very tricky, and rather instead seems like more short-term value or opportunity they want to sell per project, create these tours per client.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you said. And to be honest, right now we have the paying clients like in the real estate and in the like audience engagement, but the robotics part is something we're still exploring. Yeah, so I agree with what you said, and let's just see, like a few months later, like what's the
Still, I still think it's very impressive because, I mean, if you think about it, like this, you mentioned this started as like a hackathon project, right? So how did that evolve? Maybe can you guide us through a bit, like what was the journey of this? Because usually a hackathon project, they good, done, we won even, right? I mean, I think that, but then nothing happens of it. So can you tell us instead how you went through and evolved this project through different of these events?
Yeah. So yeah, I love hackathons. I feel like, in my opinion, hackathons is the future format of university. And especially, in my undergrad, I was learning architecture both in China and Italy. And then for my grad school, I came to the US. I came to Columbia. The school is still like architecture, but it's like 2 years program. Like it gave me a lot of opportunity to DIY my personal degree and class. So I not only like in architecture, but also I went to the CS. I went to like the human centered design. I went to like the entrepreneurship business school to DIY my own stuff. Like whatever, I didn't learn that much stuff about XR, about, like AI at school. So after I graduated, I began to, get in touch with the hackathon. Actually, my first hackathon was MIT Reality Hack. That was during my last semester at Columbia. And we won a prize, and the experience was fantastic and gave me like a lot of positive, feedback. So after that, I went to another, so far 9 different hackathons. So like in total 10 different hackathons so far, and mostly about like XR and AI. Of course, like for every hackathon is a teamwork, right? I learn from my teammates. Also, I learn about myself, like what's my best position in the team, what I'm good at, what I'm not. It's such a painful process as well, but it's also very good for the long term, like about, okay, who I am, what I'm good at, what kind of teammates I need to look for, and what kind of problem I need to tackle. And and also like, so that's a great way to learn the technical skill sets, but also try to basically test out which direction I need to go to. Because during my last semester at school, I was also applying for, like different entrepreneurship competition and, incubators. And I was very optimistic about to use XR to get investment back then. It was
When was that?
2023.
Was still not the best time, but still.
No, it's 2024, the earlier year of 2024. So it was hard to get money from XR, right? So we got invited to like the Harvard to pitch and also Stanford XR to demo, but finally we didn't get any real money to push forward. So I was like, okay, that is maybe not the right decision to continue, but I still love the technology. I love XR. I love the technology, like the spatial media. So I just went to different like XR and AI hackathons.
And sorry, what you pitched was this Orbitur or was another project?
It was another project, but like more like a baby face idea of the Orbitur. Like it was back then, I was even more realistic. Like only capture those like World Heritage sites. Even more. How to say, like in the cultural tourism, but even more, like extreme. Yeah. So like during the hackathon, I also tried like the industrial training, tried the healthcare, tried the gaming, but realized that is not for me. I don't have that passion to go through that. So like, after different hackathons, I came back to the space field. We applied for like the last year's AWE Builders program with the basically proposal without anything built up yet. And we got selected, and I just created a team and work on that. That was basically the baby phase, because for the last year's AWE Builders program, it was only in the headset, but not on the WebXR. Only after the XRCC, we pivoted to XR, and that's a big, big decision because they also require that to be more accessible to general public. And so basically we just set the hackathon, the like different competition as a milestone for our team. So at least, even if there's no money, but we can build our portfolio. And we all know how hard right now to find a job in the XR industry. So building a portfolio is very important. And also we got the price, and also we we get some attention, and there's like some real client, and it's not an easy
So
process.
I want to backtrack a second. So this AWE was actual a bit of financial support.
No.
Okay. So
It's
then,
not financial support.
how did you manage then, let's say, to keep building? And was it like the team constant, or also the team members building Orbitur were changing throughout this period?
The main people keep the same. Because like for the AWE, we had 4 teammates. But the key member is me and my quote unquote co-founder teammates. Is like because like building is not just coding. So like just the code and also like all of the other build up all together. So basically for every project, like to Orbitur, we have like a technical co-founder and a non-technical co-founder. Yeah. And so for our team right now, we're basically the combination, because we're also working on another Snap AR glasses experiences, and that also like came from another hackathon by Snap. Yeah, so our team right now is basically a combination of 2 hackathon teams. Yeah.
Okay, and so how do you manage to, let's say, keep the team together? Is that like passion, a shared, let's say, mission and love for what you have built? Because that's also can be very tricky. Are you kind of like close by? Have you studied together? Since it's not just 1 and 2, right? You mentioned that there are multiple people. How does this team mechanics evolve over time? How do you manage to keep building somehow together?
So I think like fundamentally speaking, it's all about trust, right? Like why they trust you and why I trust this direction, and why, like, for example, we have partnered with XRCC and Snap, like why they trust us to do that. So first thing first is about passion, because I firmly believe in this direction after many hackathons. And like I had a lot of internships before. Like none of them are as long as my journey for this idea right now. So, because I tried different ideas before and I know that is not for me and only this is for me. So that's why I just keep going. And financially speaking, it's very hard. So that's why, like we're right now self-funded for at the moment in order to get the attraction first, get some recognition first. Because I believe in it's an investment, and only like get all of those recognition, it can lead to like some investment, etc. And also my teammates believe in this direction as well, and we just share the credits all together. I mean, yeah, people come and go for sure, but the main members stay the same.
There was another aspect I was curious. Is this XR site, right? So you mentioned at the beginning it has an XR component.
Mm-hmm.
Now it is built on WebXR, but is there still like a part where this is gonna be, let's say, part of an XR experience, immersive experience, or for now you're focusing on the web?
I think for the real estate, web for sure. But for the cultural tourism, it's always about audience engagement. I still think headset is such a good tool, specifically for the museum setting, and also for the virtual tour, for the remote audiences to do that. Yeah. So that's why I feel like WebEx are such a good thing. Like it's not limited to the headset anymore.
And did you manage to get anything running properly when it's about the Gaussian Splatting and having, let's say, what sounds like a multiplayer experience in a headset? Did I understand correctly?
Yeah.
So under what kind of compromises do you need to go through in order to have that running in a headset? Can you give us some ballpark numbers about how big the Splats can be, or maybe what are some of the tricks that you have used?
It's like, so like you're asking how many people can join the tour at the same time, or?
That could be a part of it, and also how big can be the Splats, because again, getting the Splats to be viewed in a headset, it can always be tricky, right?
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Exactly. So both elements of that question.
Yeah. So far, like, because like right now we focus more on the web, to be honest. As you mentioned, the computing power on the headset is relatively lower than the computer for sure, right? So we also try like the same quality, same scale of the splats on the web and like on the laptop versus like on the headset, and headsets are like a bit laggy. So that's why we just keep this, like option available, but we are waiting for the upgrade of the headsets. And for the number of people, so far we have 6, but it can be more. The reason why it's 6 right now is because it's enough for our cases. Um, but actually, fun story before the XRCC hackathon, between the XRCC and AWE last year, like that also contributed a lot to why I'm still working on this, and I have a confidence, is that many people are doubting about the value of the virtual tour. They feel like it's a fake request because only people are willing to travel in person or not. And yeah, like it's a debatable, right? It's a debatable. So for me, I used another platform, like another product, and we organized the 3 virtual tours of New York City. And I was the tour guide. Because I was joined in another group chat, and those people, they have the headset. It's such a niche group that everybody has the headsets, and they used to have like organized like virtual tours for like from different places. And it's not for Gaussian splatting, just to download some like a bunch of panoramas, like on the internet. And for me, I use my 360 picture camera to capture by myself from my apartment to my office. Very normal day, not like nothing special like touristy spot. And surprisingly speaking, for each tour there are more than 200 people joined, and for the tour, for the whole session, like we all know how hard to convince people to wear the headsets, right? But for each tour, it lasts around 1 to 2 hours. The longest one's like 2.5 hours, and still like at the end there are like still 20 to 30 people. And I was shocked. I was like, how come this can be so long? And when the headset is dying, we began to say, oh, wait a second, I need to charge my headset, which is unbelievable. So after that, I realized that people are not coming for the panoramas. I mean, like they care about panoramas, but they care more about the people that introducing the panoramas. They're curious about me as a people living here and working here. They ask a lot of questions about, is there like homeless? How many homeless on the street? What's the rent of the city? How? Yeah, so
interesting. It's a good point. But then, who was the audience in this case? Were they other Americans? Were European? Were Asian? Like, who were the people joining this tour that you were giving?
Yeah, so for this tour specifically, because like I'm a Chinese, so like we just I found like a WeChat group that have like only have like they have the Pico headsets and the Quest headsets, and it's a Chinese product that just basically organized some like virtual tours. And I realized that, so I just joined to test out what kind of interest the people have. But again, like later, like after this tour, I also did other, like the user test during the XRCC hackathon, and the result and reaction was kind of similar. People have, intend to stay longer than just like real people, not like, like AI bot or something. And yeah,
it's an interesting point, because I think that then it's kind of like purpose driven, and it's not like a cultural aspect, as you mentioned, that is like of course the architecture, the environment, it's all part, but it's just like used to do part of the conversation. I could imagine, for example, that I've heard that there are this YouTube channel also that says, hey, you're American, you want to move to Portugal, for example, right? There are a lot of those. And then it's like, I can imagine like a bunch of, let's say, people that maybe want to move, hey, let's hire and get a tour of Lisbon or Porto, or let's see with a local guy or woman, whatever that might be. And then the value and the pitching and the positioning of all this gets completely different, because in like, hey, take a tour of the statues here. No, like go with someone that is local and is going to tell you and help you and has experience in this thing and this thing and this thing. So then, yeah, maybe the tour and the value is, as you observed, less about the architectural and the environment, and becomes more an excuse to spend some time, extensive as you're describing, in an environment to learn something from someone.
Yeah, so that's why we realized that social layer is very important on top of the Splats layer. So that's why it's such an important feature that we keep during the XRCC hackathon. And also because even before during the pandemic, I realized some virtual tour product on the internet. They use Zoom to show people to different places, and they charge money for that. So that was a prototype
but
version.
very different circumstances. So I think that is a bit of a, that's also the thing, right? I mean, I think it was a catalyzer for much, but now the way we operate and we think, and it's certainly different. But so then, Zihao, what can we expect then from Orbitur and from you? Are you joining any other hackathon? What's your plan for 2026?
Wow, that's a great question. I think the short answer is yes. Will I join more hackathons? Yes, but my purpose of joining hackathons are different right now. The biggest difference is before I used hackathon to find my direction. Right now, I already found my direction, so I'm gonna use hackathon to learn basically. To basically learn tools and learn skill sets. I think that's a very efficient way to learn new stuff. And I already joined too many extra hackathons. So this year, I may join more AI hackathons to learn more AI tools.
If you would have a tip, let's say a closing tip for anybody who is planning or is about to join a hackathon, what would be the most important tip you would give? That is not the obvious one, though.
Be uncomfortable. Be uncomfortable. Yeah, be uncomfortable. It's scary to work on something with a group of people you never met before. And it's scary to believe in yourself that you can do something within 1 or even 2 days from scratch that in a field that you never know before. And it's hard to not sleep and in founders and startup mode. And that's very difficult and such a stressful situation. And but after that, I'm gonna feel super, super good.
Zihao, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening in. If you like the show, remember to leave a rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or a thumbs up on YouTube. It really helps me keep doing this and shine the spotlights on the greatest founders and makers, pushing the boundaries of XR and AI. Also, make sure to check out the show page xraispotlight.com, where you can find more conversation like this one. Till next time.